Well, it's sounding like these protesters are starting to take over some buildings on college campuses. We're still not seeing them be violent, per se, like the other protests that we're used to seeing here in America that was peaceful protests. Do y'all remember those? You had buildings burning, you had all kinds of stuff going on. I've said it, if these guys were protesting sending all this money to other countries, it would make more sense. They're pro Palestine, and that's upsetting a lot of people. They're claiming that they're being hatred towards the Jews. There's all kinds of stuff going on with this, right? Is it going to turn into a Kent State situation where eventually it's going to get violent, right? As far as the government going to get violent when they go in to remove them? Are the protesters going to get violent? Anything could happen here. Everything nowadays you're sitting on a teeter-totter, a seesaw, right? You want to keep it kind of level, but here lately everything starts tilting one way, right? And when it tilts, everything just gets out of hand real quickly. What are they going to accomplish with these protests? Really, not much of nothing, to be 100% honest with you. And if you've seen any of the footage on these protests, it's mainly white people protesting it, right, for Palestine. And, I sit there and I watch them, and, some of the people who are protesting wouldn't even be allowed in Palestine. And you know what I'm talking about there. That's not acceptable over there. But it's a lot of young college age kids. Where are they all coming from? Are they all American, or is it some of these people that's come across our border, which they very well could be? We're coming up on the summer months. Summer months it used to be vacation months, right, for people. Now it's protest time. It's protest months. It's election year. I don't see how Biden can win this election again. I really don't, but who knows, right? What happened last time could happen again. The election, what happens then? What type of protest are we going to see then? Let's say Trump wins. What type of protest are we going to see from the Democrats? Are they going to accept the election results? Probably not. I've told you, we will not know the results of the election for probably weeks or months. Honestly, we probably won't. Growing up, I used to, as a kid, you'd watch the election with your parents or whatever, and by the end of the night, you knew, or definitely by the next morning, you knew who was the president, right? People accepted, hey, well, I lost, well, we'll go on. But here lately, it's got to go in front of the Supreme Court, right? They got to do this, they got to do that, and it turns into a huge issue. And then if Trump loses, what happens then? We've discussed this several times on our videos. If Trump loses, what type of protest are we going to see then, right? You got to think, election years, everything heats up in America. Everybody that has an agenda, they get pushing it, they get it rolling, they get it going, right? One thing I want to know, like, let's say Trump wins the election, right? Trump just outright wins it. He carries the electoral college. He carries the popular vote. What's going to happen with all the money that we're sending to Ukraine? What's going to happen with the money we're sending to Israel? What's going to happen to the legal immigrants? If he deports every one of them, that costs you and me money. He's not paying to deport them, we are. I personally don't think the Ukraine stuff over there will stop. I really don't. You always got to remember, he said that he would throw Hillary Clinton in jail as soon as he's president, right? Didn't happen. They're going to tell you a lot of stuff that you want to hear at that moment, right? You're like, yeah, that's what we need. We need this right now. But when it actually comes time to do it, they realize, wait a minute, I got to do this. I got to have Congress approval, You got to remember that. So if we're sitting here at this time next year with Trump president and we're still in Ukraine, we're still dealing with the Iran, Israel, Hamas, all this stuff going on over there, you got to remember, that they'll tell you what you want to hear to get your vote, right? They'll tell you. They'll tell you, they'll get you all on your side. You get you on their side. But when it actually comes time to do stuff, you got to remember there's steps that they have to go through to do it. You got to have Congress approval for a lot of this stuff. But to get back on these protests, they're starting to take over buildings. I love history. I read a lot of history. It's reminding me of the Vietnam War protests for what I've read about that, but not exactly. Not the same type of protest issues, but the way they're protesting reminds me a lot of that. And eventually the government got tired of it, right? They sent in riot squads, they sent in the National Guards. You had Kent State where some people got shot, back then, the tear gas, riot dogs, riot gear, batons, you remember, or just go look at a YouTube video about this stuff, they used to just go in there and get them out of there, right? But now we're at a position where I don't know if these governments, these people in power over these colleges and stuff, they have to walk the fine line, right? Because people's money keeps them open. Yeah. So it could get very, very interesting. I don't know what they're planning to get out of these protests. Are they going to protest the whole summer? Are they going to protest the rest of the year? Or is this just something right now to grab headlines to keep you focused on that while something else is going on, which could very well be something? We all know that a lot of times they'll be like, look at this hand while this hand's doing something. You don't know what they're doing, right? You got supposedly, the Ukraine, Russia stuff's heating up a little bit. Back during the winter, there was going to be a big winter offensive, right? Didn't happen. Going to be a big major push, as soon as spring gets here, there's going to be these pushes and all this and that. And of course, we're still hearing every day from some people that nuclear war is just right here waiting on us. At any minute, Russia's going to launch a nuke, which I still not see any need for a nuke to be used in Russia. I may not be seeing what they're seeing, but the Middle East is more likely where you're going to see a nuclear weapon used. It's just that simple. We keep hearing Iran's this close to having nuclear weapons. I've heard that. I am 47 years old, and I've heard that my whole life, that Iran's right on the verge of having nuclear weapons. More than likely they already have them, right? Or at least everything to make one. You got to remember they got to keep everybody on the edge of their seats, right? Who remembers Russia interference in the elections, right? Well, what did that lead up into? It caused all kind of issues with our election, supposedly, right? And then what happens? Well, Russia invades Ukraine, right? All this stuff is pre-planned before we get to see it. It's pre-planned, plain and simple. Like we've discussed with these, we're going to attack you, we're going to retaliate against you. Okay, we're going to do it the 3rd of May at 9 a.m. and we're going to send this amount of this drones. It's going to be, here's the targets, defend yourself, which is very strange, which means it's all show. It's all smoke and mirrors, and unfortunately, people get hurt. People get hurt when the governments are playing these smoke and mirror games. Same thing could wind up happening with these protesters, Do they have the right to protest? Yes. Do they appear to be peaceful? From what I've seen, they've been peaceful. Now, they took over a building, so I guess that now means they're insurrectionists, because they took over a building on a campus. But overall, they've seemed peaceful, right? Compared to what we've been told over the last few years of what peaceful protesters are. Y'all remember, all these protests where crap was getting burnt, people were getting beat up. That was mostly peaceful protest, right? This appears to be more peaceful, but it could turn at any moment. Could they just be waiting to do something? Could these people be sleeper cells? Possibly. They very possibly could be sleeper cells. I can't sit here and say they are, and I can't say they're not. But, it depends on how the government, and when I say the government, the local area wants to deal with those protesters. Are they just going to keep, arresting them, And eventually, is it going to break into something big? Is one of these protesters not going to go to jail peacefully? Are they going to fight? Go back and watch old protests from the Vietnam War, and you'll see what I'm talking about. Once that happens, the gloves are off, right? The gloves are off. And then that could be the sign that gets these people, the sleeper cells, activated, right? Am I saying that every protester is pro-Hamas? No. But we're at a point in society now where you can't talk about this, you can't talk about that, you're a xenophobe, you're a bigot, whatever, right? You can't talk about stuff. You're not allowed to talk about it because it's not, the Truth Information Board. You remember that when Biden was trying to get that started, that Truth Information Board, where they could silence anybody on social media that could say something? And usually it turned out to be right a couple weeks, months, or years later, what they had said. Y'all remember that, right? That's where we're at in society. But these protesters, this could turn into something big once they quit being peaceful, And when that happens, all bets are off what's going to go on. Read your history, look up on it, research it yourself. If you're in an area where these protests are going on, I recommend you not to be nowhere near it. A lot of people want to go see stuff like it. They want to see what's going on with their own eyes. I recommend not even going near it. What else are we not hearing about now? The border. We're not hearing about, Eagle Pass no more, right? That's old news. It's old news now. We got protesters, taking over campuses. It's all smoke and mirrors. Something will come up big in the headlines and everybody will jump on it, right? And then, all right, that's getting old. Nobody's really talking about it no more. Oh, we got this going on. Let's all jump on this one and watch this. The border's still wide open. If y'all didn't know that, which I know most of you do that watch these videos, but we're not hearing a lot about it, are we? Where's all these National Guards that we were sending down there to reinforce the border, to protect the border, to seal it up, right? Now they're going to have to start pulling resources around for these protests. It's getting funny, as far as funny, I mean, it's getting to the point of where people are saying that we're not going to have an election. That could very well happen. As far as I know, it's never happened before. We've always had an election. But a lot of people are afraid you're going to get quarantined due to some sickness or something like that. They won't do that again because they realize what type of uproar they would have if they come out and told you to stay home again over some type of sickness, right? That's just not going to be, it's not going to float this time. Some cities it would, but the vast majority it wouldn't. But you get civil unrest, then yeah, you could do something like a martial law or something like that. So the rest of this year is going to be very interesting. We're going to have to see where we end up. I told you there's nothing we can do to stop this crap that's going on. All we can do is watch it, pay attention to it, and react when something happens. Plain and simple. All these people telling you that, there's stuff going on in the Middle East, you can stop it, right? No, you can't. No, you can't. We're not big enough players in the game to stop that. We don't have enough money in the game to put an end to that. The higher ups handle that, and we're left to react. This protest stuff, if you're in a town where this is going on, avoid it to the best of your ability. If you don't have to go near it, don't go near it, because you could get caught up in some crap and then you wind up in jail, right? I mean, plain and simple. So, keep your head on a swivel, be aware of your surroundings, protect yourself and your family at all times. At that moment, you're the only person who can do it. Stay safe, keep prepping. This is going to be a heck of a year. It's going to get wild. I don't think we've seen very much of nothing yet. I think it's going to get worse and worse, especially as further we go into the summer. May be wrong, but stay safe, keep prepping.